Welcome, adventurers, to Dice Sagas. This is Christian, and we also have Matt with us as well, the elusive other half of Dice Sagas. And we've also been blessed with the presence of Keegan from the Great Weave. So this is going to be elaborating a bit more in terms of our projects, which is to expand the lore and obviously the actual characters within the Interstice itself. And obviously we're going to have our own lore in there, but we're looking for great community engagement too. So Keegan, if you're okay with just explaining a bit about the Weave, what it is, how you came about it, and then obviously we'll then interject with the Interstice part of it.
Yeah, so the Great Weave actually started as just the Weave. It basically was our local group wanting to find more meaning in their games. We'd got to the point where we were playing like most Saturdays, and we'd come in, we'd play a game, we'd leave, come in, play a game, leave. And it happened for a while until we were sort of thinking it'd be much better if there was some sort of meaningful reason to actually fight each other, basically. And so we came up with a narrative campaign that we were all playing, and basically I wrote off a number of different story arcs for each player, and then they played, and it basically didn't really matter how the game went, then the story would continue on, and I would weave the stories in. So they each chose like a new hero, a new character, and they played out those games. And I think we probably played the Weave for maybe 9 months or so.
Okay.
The story arcs sort of came to their conclusion. So there were proper story arcs as a filmmaker, sort of that each had like all of the necessary sort of 3 act structure and things like that. But then a little bit later on, we were talking to some people who were not in our local environment, and they wanted to get involved. So we moved the Weave, and I bought the URL, and we created the Great Weave, which was essentially a new way to take that core idea about integrating your personal narrative stories with other players and just sort of explode that out of the water. So
it's good. The idea around is that the very idea of that is just amazing though as well. I mean, me and Matt have been talking about this in the background, of course, as well, and it's been one of those where obviously I know you connected with us on Facebook, I believe. Obviously this is many months ago now. That seems longer. But in terms of the idea, I think me and Matt really jumped at this, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, like, it's so, you see battle reports, you see people play games, but there's never any like, you know, personal connection with them a lot of times. And I always like the idea that, you know, I play someone, I might play them again later on, and I want those armies, those stories, those characters, those heroes to have a story behind them, to drive their motivation, to drive their conflict. They make it so much more interesting that way, because, you know, you may play a game where your hero, you know, finishes off one of their generals, and that's an epic moment, but without putting it down into a narrative, it's kind of lost to time. You don't get that moment again. Whereas if you can put it into a story, put a narrative onto it, it becomes, you know, an epic tale. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's just creating story arcs for your characters, and when you do have battles as well, obviously you could have like an epic moment where, like, it could be a Stormcast Liberator managed to fend off like multiple people, and he becomes a character in that, right? And obviously develops his own story arc and all that kind of stuff. Not to say, Matt, it's ever happened to you, because obviously you're Stormcast.
No, my Stormcast hit like pillows. So we'll wait. We'll get there at some point. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, you may have like a unit that you find, you know, just aren't effective ever, and then 5-6 games in, someone in that unit pulls off something epic, and there you go. You have a huge story arc where, you know, from nothing, from a failure, they become heroes. They won the game for you. They become the hero of that army, and that turns into a story, that turns into a character, and that becomes something substantial, something cool.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, Keegan, continue, because I rudely interrupted.
No, it's okay. So right now, then, that was a good sort of 1.5 years ago. So at this point in time, the Great Weave is basically taken that and turned up to 11. Now it's not just personal sort of heroic stories. It's world building. It's It's realm building. We've got people who are doing their hobby reports on there. So as they paint more and more for their armies, they sort of add them on to the story. We've got people who've created whole parts of realms or new cities. We've got a section on tools where we've got different ways to integrate different ways to play the game, whether that's something as obvious as Warcry or something crazy like go-kart racing. We've got different enemies and creatures that you can pull in. So someone else has created an enemy or a creature and you can pull them into your existing games. And then obviously things like locations, whether that's a custom-made location or a well-known or sort of canon location as well. So really there's very few rules on the Weave. One of them is basically anything canon, anything like majorly canon needs to be kept free of change. So Harkuron, spoiler alert, Harkuron is definitely a thing in the Weave. If you go there right now, Ampelgard is not there. You can't take your hero and like slay in a gash in your next game or whatever like that. But aside from that, like really you can do whatever you want. And really it's just a place where if you've got an idea, if you want to take that hobby project and sort of come up with a new way to display it to family and friends, the Weave is definitely the place to do it. And it just gives it a really nice, good look, I think. Maybe a bit biased,
Shocking.
But it's a good looking way of showing off your models, of your story. And then you take all of that. So you take all of these different people's creations, and then you stick them in the same place, and then you allow other players to then take that and run with it. So if you've created a hero, let's say you've created a hero for a tabletop game, that hero can turn up in a Soulbound game on the other side of the world. If you've come up with a location for your Warcry campaign, someone else can go to that location, set off an endless spell there, and that's sort of quote unquote what really happened. And it's just a great way to really integrate different people's experiences, different people's narrative adventures across all of the known platforms. So like right now, we've got everything from, obviously we've got the tabletop, Warcry is supported, even Silver Tower is supported just because of the way that it's made up of, made there. Obviously Soulbound's a really big part as well. We've got people, whole Soulbound groupings on the Weave. So if you go down to Soulbound parties, you can see if you are a GM and you've got a group of players, they can all submit their characters as heroes, and then you can have a dedicated page where you've got all your long-term goals, where they are at the Weave, all their integrated stories, everything.
Which, to be honest, that's Soulbound itself is one of those things I've always been interested in exploring a lot more, because me and Matt did we both took turns as GM for Dungeons and Dragons, and it's one of those it was a decent group. We had people come and go, which is always a bit of a with any of these groups, it's always a bit more challenging. But we did have a few dedicated people. So Soulbound itself is something which we may tease into in the future. Obviously, time permitting, which is a rarity these days. But it's something that it's just great to have that possibility as well, and that we can weave that within. Again, obviously, speaking for our channel personally as well, that would be the Interstice Pocket Realm, but then again, these characters can venture out of the Interstice into the Mortal Realms, commit all sort of chaos, carnage, or goodness, depending obviously your side, and then obviously then return back to the Interstice and all that kind of stuff. So the possibilities are just crazy. It's just one big massive sandbox. It's great.
Yeah,
really cool about the Great Weave that. Oh, sorry. I really like that the Great Weave lets your players basically it's like a repository for your own stories. You can narrate and you can record your journey all the way. And again, it's something that's not lost. It's on the internet. It's on the Great Weave. So, I mean, you can see your story progress. You can basically turn, if you're one of those long-term role-playing game GMs, you can basically turn your campaign into a gigantic novel almost on the Great Weave. Yeah. And that's really, really cool. And everyone can watch it. Everyone can read it and enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and so far, because it's been going for a little bit now, we've had some really great interactions. I mean, we've had characters coming that were built up in, let's say, an animosity, and then progressing their story even further in the Great Weave. One of my favorite current stories right now is just it's a local one, but locally we're playing through Firestorm right now, which is a great way. This is just obviously that part of the Mortal Realms is just constantly in war. So in Firestorm, there's an artifact that you can create if you basically get certain parts of the map. And one of my guys is literally the reason, his primary goal for playing Firestorm right now is that he can create that artifact, then send it through the mail in the Weave. So the Weave has called the magical mailing system.
World of Warcraft, isn't it?
Which is an easy way of sending like artifacts and things to different characters. And he's literally going to take that artifact and like give it to another character that he plays in Soulbound, so that Soulbound character can wield that weapon. And that kind of thing is just like, what? I've also got another group that plays Underworlds really consistently. We've got an Underworlds campaign that's going on, and the Underworlds campaign has cards that have artifacts. And one of my players was like, I've unlocked this card, because of the way that we play Underworlds, you actually unlock and find cards. I've unlocked this card. Can I basically, in theory, put it in the bin, not the real bin, but in the bin, and then send it to my my character on the tabletop, which is what they did. And then they created like a custom weapon, which is a standard weapon, on their AOS character that was like represented by that Underworlds artifact. So just
that's so meta. That's so cool.
It's just crazy, like just the way that you think about, how you can integrate. The moment you start to think like everything that you're doing coexists and can interact and influence one another, suddenly your options just go through the roof. Honestly.
Yeah, it's no for sure. I mean, to be honest, the idea of obviously the weapons and the artifacts, it did remind me very much of, again, the glory days of playing World of Warcraft, when you transferred obviously items and all that stuff to one character to the other as well. Yeah, and to be honest, that idea as well of interweaving everything together it's obviously very close to what obviously me and Matt have actually been thinking, in terms of, obviously we've got Age of Sigmar at the moment, we've also got Warcry, all within the Interstice Pocket Realm. The reason behind the Pocket Realm as well, is mainly it's our own sandbox, even more so. We create our own maps, we create our own, but basically lore, everything that we want to, really. So yeah, I think it's just I just love the idea behind the whole concepts.
Yeah, and so the Interstice was like a good way, like a good example of just someone taking that. You know, we've got a bunch of people who have submitted locations, but yeah, to take a whole Pocket Realm and sort of run with it, it's really awesome. Just because, again, it's just that idea of like tuning up to 11, and I think then it's not just that, but then it's also encouraging other people to then get involved, right? The moment, I think that is the real difference between the way that we play AOS now versus other tabletops we played when we were children, like 10 years old. I don't think that kind of interaction, obviously the internet is really the thing that's changed it, was really even possible. And now the moment is like, not only have I created my own lore, my little part of this hobby, but then you go further and say, well, then I want you to get involved. I want other people to sort of have their people involved with their location, their lore. That, I think, is just so unique. It works very well with the Great Weave.
Yeah, no, that's it for sure. And with the again, with the idea of the Pocket Realm, of being able to visit the Mortal Realms and then come back to the Interstice, and obviously you can set up a settlement there. Obviously, a vast majority, well, all people near enough, unless they've heard of the Interstice, would obviously have their settlements within the Mortal Realms. That's just facts. I mean, but having the ability, because obviously within the Interstice we have portals where obviously come-ins and go-ins and all that stuff, and being able to actually venture into the Interstice, into another like world, if you like, because there are plenty of Pocket Realms in Age of Sigmar lore, that the fact is that you can venture into here and explore strange, wonderful places that obviously the community has created as well as ourselves. And then you could go back to the mortal realms and say, for instance, say you spent 50 years in the Interstice, went back to the mortal realms, and only 5 minutes has passed. So you don't necessarily, so you can explore and do so much within the pocket realm over years, decades. Obviously not literal decades, but character decades, and then narrative decades even, and then go back to your mortal realm and hardly any time's gone by, kind of thing. So the whole idea of the concept of collaboration and everything is just, it's really something. It's just great that we've obviously stumbled across each other in a sense, because it just works so well.
The idea of being able to come in and out of a game, or come in and out of a campaign or a narrative, is really great, because it doesn't disrupt your own story as much either. As you can have a campaign going where your characters or your armies are doing this, that, and the other, but then it doesn't stop you from having a side campaign where they might have ventured off somewhere else and did something else for a little while. And I think keeping it nice and open like that gives you a bit more flexibility, just kind of like how any narrative game lets you have a bit more flexibility. As long as you have a story behind what you're doing, it's all that matters, really, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
It's massive. It can just be, I've got a hero and they've got a name and they've fought these kind of battles, and that it doesn't have to be like that first example, the way that we came up with it. Those were really hefty, massive 3x structure, really set story arcs. But that is like kind of the one extreme, The other one is just, I just want to see, I've painted my character up, and while I'm painting it, I've come up with a cool name, and I think I've got like a little backstory or even just like a paragraph, and I just want to have it look really cool so I can show people.
You say they're two extremes, but at the same time, if you just start with that one character and gradually build up, you could get a three act story arc going on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all starting from one simple person. All great stories start with a simple character, and something happens that makes that simple character into something great. And I think the Great Weave and just having narrative games in general allows for that. You can have a simple free guild soldier become, rise up in the ranks, become a general or something that happens that's epic, that's really cool. You turn that simple character into something great. And I think that's what the Great Weave offers a lot of people. You can take a lot of simple characters, simple designs, and build up that story, build up that journey, and build up that epic movie climax.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, what I'm going to do now, if we must move on to, do you want to go, Keegan? Do you want to go through the realms aspects as well? So, what's leveraged here, and then obviously we'll go into the Interstice as well.
Okay, so basically, so the first one, the Weave, and to a degree, those local campaigns, the Weave-wide events, these are like predominantly written stories. That's basically how it starts, and that's really like in many ways that can be a backbone of what it is. So these are the actual stories that people have written down. So that's where you'll find those. And then under the world of the Weave are the blocks that make up those stories. So heroes is really just an easy way of defining the main character or a main character. And then obviously Soulbound parties is clear. People of the Weave is just any mortal or not mortal or ghost or blah, blah, blah. And in Age of Sigmar that is not the main character, that doesn't need sort of that element, you'll find there. And then locations, creatures and enemies and artifacts are all fairly self-standard. And then if you go into that, you'll see that specifically people have their own custom rules. So if you're looking to integrate a person, someone else's creation, someone else's person into your story, there are nice, clear rules about how to integrate that person. So heroes come with the default rule of they cannot be destroyed or killed outright without permission, but many of the people in the Weave could be killed without even any permission at all. And then some people decide, no, I really want this character to stay alive. So, you kind of have to tell me if you're going to kill them off. And the way to tell them is obviously through the Discord that we can tell you about later. But yeah, and same with locations. So locations also have their own custom rules. Again, most people opt for, please don't destroy completely outright. but sure,
Vulgard.
Don't nuke my location.
Yeah.
But certainly a lot of locations you can battle in and change. So as an example, Brightspear within the Weave actually has a giant sort of sky whale that is like crashed into the outer city. That if you were to go to Brightspear while playing a game that is sort of cognizant that they're in the Weave, that is something that your characters could see, just as an example. And then of course, after a while we had this general idea of, and in many ways this has come off the back of animosity, or really that interplay of communication with animosity, which is the last animosity had a very strong focus on narrative paths. And so the Weave has a very loose version of narrative paths that we call rumors, which we've stolen from the Soulbound vernacular. So under the realms, you're going to find all the different realms. Some are conspicuously empty right now, but so like Hish is not there. So you'll find, so there we go. And then any stories that get told in Akshi will turn up in Akshi under the Gazette. So that's like narrative stories, right? Yep. And then anything that gets submitted that kind of lives or has to do with Akshi would then be updated. So like a location that you've developed within Akshi would show up there. But then on top of that, we've got rumors, so realm-wide rumors that are just not as specific around a city or city rumors. These are just story arc. These are just ideas that you can run with. So as a player, you can go to a realm, go to the rumors, pick a rumor and say, I want to play a story that resolves or interplays with that rumor. So it's basically an animosity version of a narrative path, or it's the beginning, the call in the movie vernacular, we would say the call. It's that initial idea about going on an adventure. And so you can take that and have a whole game about it, whether it's a Soulbound game, a Warcry game. And then obviously the idea is come back and tell us how that resolved, and tell us what happened with that, and add on to that story. So that's really what rumors are all about. But then obviously we've got pocket realms as well that come up with realms that are, we're going to go see them now, the Interstice as well, where it takes that and it just goes, through the roof. Because we can custom make anything that people want. If people want a custom hero with, their specific needs, we can make that. So when you guys approached us with the Interstice, you were like, well, we want to show up in that realms function, but we don't really need these tool sets. It's like, cool, let's custom make something just for you, which we can see here. So
and obviously the work you've done for us is obviously been really good as well. Really happy with it. So the Interstice itself. So for those who are familiar with obviously our channel, I'll put links down in the description anyway to give you a bit more background behind it. But within the Great Weave, it's just obviously you got the links to our Dice Sagas YouTube channel. You got a little teaser trailer. You got our playlists, and these are from our battle reports that we've done, narrative battle reports. Well, matched battle reports told in a narrative way. Then we have the current Interstice actual map itself as well. This again, if you go back and watch. If you go back and watch the first, even the summary, to be honest, of the actual first chapter, you'll find out what occurred there, and this is where we go into the actual characters as well, which is I think is really really cool. So we have the people of the Interstice. This is for the Order faction. So what we have so far, again, this is very limited compared to what it's going to be like in the future. So we have a few characters that we've created, and then we've actually got 2 characters from the community so far, which is absolutely amazing. This guy has done incredible work regarding these stories and these backgrounds. So more than happy, obviously, to demonstrate them. And we've got many more community vids and obviously, characters and locations that we're going to be looking to input within the interstice within the Great Weave. And if we move further down, we got the Chaos section as well. So we've got obviously my little Skaven-y character there, which we're going to flesh out a lot more Chaos factions. We've got Death as well. Destruction is missing so far. We do have a Destruction faction coming very soon, which is very cool as well. And then we have a location. Again, this will be fleshed out a lot more. This is from the community as well, which just goes to show we are looking for great community engagement here as well, and we want to really flesh out our pocket realm. And then again, that would then if those people who actually do publish and submit entries here, there's no reason why you can't then obviously venture into other realms, check out the Great Weave. There's tons of great stuff here, and obviously then interact and leverage what you can. To be honest, it's just an amazing tool, amazing website that Keegan has created.
I'd just like to say it looks very, very well presented. The whole Weave website is very, very nicely done, very professionally done. And it's so easy to navigate and just find just little stories and just find little snippets. Because the thing I like about Warhammer community is finding those little short stories that they put up once in a while. But then I can't find them ever again for some reason.
Yeah.
But here, everything is nicely organized, neatly put out, and just finding random stories to just read up on is just so fun to do, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I mean, this is only going to expand, and again, we will be looking to develop a lot more as well in the future. So this is as it stands right now, which is amazing, and obviously we will be looking to explore a lot more of the interstice with battles and characters, and obviously community lore, which is something. To be honest, the engagement we've had so far has been incredible, which I think is something. Again, all the communications, all the chat that I've had with the community regarding the lore, it's just been. I think people are really eager to get involved as well, which is just a great thing.
Personally, I'd love to see that character section just explode with ideas from the community.
Exactly that. So I think it's really, really obviously amazing and awesome website, and thank you, Keegan, for obviously, well, first of all, creating it, reaching out, and collaborating. But no, also, sorry, Keegan, go on. Before that, I was going to mention the Discord as well. So we did have a meager Discord channel. We basically just started it, and then obviously knowing full well that we're going to be collaborating with Keegan with the Great Weave, it just made perfect sense to migrate over to obviously yourself and obviously your Discord that you created. And then obviously within this Discord you can see obviously all the chat, all the creations. Again, Keegan, you can by all means go into great detail with it. We do have a little section as well for the interstice where you can obviously talk about the lore and all that aspects within the interstice. And then the lore is in the general Great Weave lore as well, and creations and so on. But yeah, Keegan, do you want to explain a bit about the Discord? Again, I'll put a link in the description down below.
Yeah, so the Discord, I think the Discord is one of the better ways to. It's that extra live element where you're gonna find, or that's the best place to find updates, because there isn't sort of this running stream of updates on the Weave. If you go to the front page, it doesn't say this is what we just added or something. So if you're interested in sort of finding out, well, when a character goes up or when a location goes up, without just constantly refreshing that page, the Discord is obviously the best place to get that information. But then on top of that, it's just growing into quite a nice little community. It isn't absolutely insane with just constant, it's hundreds and hundreds of people. It's just a bunch of really awesome people who really enjoy the hobby, that really enjoy narrative stuff. We show off our paint stuff. We sort of bat around ideas for stories and narrative things. There's a dedicated GM or NEO sort of channel where we can talk about story arcs or trying to figure out how to integrate better rule sets and things like that. It's just a great little part. I will say it's a great little part. Again, I'm biased. It's a great little part of the hobby that isn't a chore in many ways. I'm part of I don't know, like, you know, a good couple dozen Discords at this point, and some of them are like, woo, you know, it's a lot going on here. It's sometimes hard to follow. Whereas the Great Weave right now is that nice little happy medium where everyone is like really cool, and then obviously when we haven't done a lot because, you know, obviously with COVID and stuff. But we're wanting to do more sort of Weave-wide events. So really low-key, low-stress, low expectation events where people can interact and pursue a story together around sort of player-made submissions. So we've already done one like that, and I'm hoping to do another one mid this year. So then obviously the Discord is a great place to sort of talk with other people. So definitely join the Discord. And then, the Interstice has its own special little place in the Discord where you can talk all things, Dice Saga, all things Interstice. So I think that's my heart with the Great Weave, whether it's the site or with the Discord, is really just to serve players, serve NEOs, serve GMs, serve creators, where it's like, if you've got a cool idea, let's work on it. Let's get you up and running. Let's make you a cool thing. Let's make your cool thing that's in your brain right now a cool thing that other people can interact with. That's really my heart, is to serve people in that way. So, it's going to take. When I joined, obviously with the Discord as well, it was just. It opened your eyes to a lot that's the community's working on as well, which is just great. I mean, I've seen so many cool stories. Again, people are always, you know, friendly, you know, and obviously positive, and which is just very important in the community as well, and on Discord, because, you know, there's enough negativity in the world where positivity is always a nice thing. So there's always like collaboration that I've seen. Obviously, I've posted, YouTube stuff there, as well as character creations, as well as my own painting that I'm working on currently as well. And it's just one of those, it's just great Discords, and I do highly recommend people join, obviously for Interstice, and obviously then you can explore as well fully the Great Weave and the amazing people on there as well. I'd highly recommend it. So Matt, I was going to say, I think, because I know you've been a busy man in the last month or so for sure, so it's going to say, I don't think you've actually joined, but I think you're going to join very soon as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
So that'll be, obviously, again, it'd be just more collaboration there and all that kind of stuff, which is always a good thing. So I think what we'll do then, I think it's a good time to wrap up, to be honest. We've talked about the Great Weave, about the Interstice, its place in it, and in the community. I suppose, Keegan, in fact, do you want to talk about how this, because obviously this applies to the Interstice community as well, or Dice Saga community. So this is how people can go about submitting obviously entries, if you like. So this is through the Great Weave, and we can talk obviously a bit more about that. Historically on our channel, we've always done post it in the comment, obviously, because then that helps with obviously visibility. We never had, obviously, the Great Weave, utilized it fully. Again, we're looking to do that. We've also had our email where people submitted entries there, which again is great in terms of, you know, get to see it, but it's a lot more structured within the Great Weave, and obviously in terms of accessibility for us to then go on and create videos on the back of it, it just makes life a lot easier. So do you want to go into a bit of detail around the submission?
Yeah, so I'm even now I'm thinking like, man, I should probably get that button right in the front there. But basically, if you go to more and then submissions, it's right there. That's how you're going to submit everything, whether it's a location, a story, an enemy, a hero, a person, doesn't matter, whatever it is that you want to put, that you want to integrate into the world, submissions is where it's at. And then I think right now we've recently streamlined a bunch, like the last 2 weeks we've streamlined a bunch. So I think right now there's just let me just double check, there's 2 submission forms, but historically we've had 3, so maybe there is still 3. Let's just double check. There's 3. Okay, cool. So really the 3 submission forms is, one is for a hero, one is for a post, and then one is the random one. So the hero is pretty clear. It's just you've got a character, you know what you want to do with their character. The character's got a name, it's got a little bio, it's got some set of rules that you want to do. Again, the default for a hero is you can't kill a hero immediately, and then you can put the picture up with that. So we do encourage, like, even when people don't submit pictures, I almost always follow them up and like, let's talk about a picture. So you want it to be pretty, right?
Yeah.
So that's the hero submission. Super easy, especially if you've already made it all. You just copy paste and be done. And then
I was going to say, I was just going to say, you're talking about the pictures as well. So in terms of the actual picture itself, we will have a mixed bag. So people, obviously, artwork, submit, and then also you can even take a picture of your miniature itself,
right?
That kind of stuff. So it's just, I suppose it's just whatever best suits your character, isn't it, really, and what's available.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then post submission is basically everything else. And again, this is all really clearly laid out. It's probably the most wordy part of the weave because it's a little bit more, clear. But the post submission is basically everything else, whether it's a location or a person or an artifact or whatever. You can go in and add in the various details that you want. And this is also applies to story. So if you've got a story submission, just like the last 24 hours, I put in a couple more story submissions as well from people. This is how you would do it. So you've probably made the story somewhere else, let's be honest. I very much doubt you're writing it right now in the submission window, but whatever. You've copied and pasted into the description, added your feature image, click submit, and then you're done. And then obviously other requests is just, hey, I've got something else that I didn't know where to put it. And you put it in here, and then I get back to you and we work it out, we make something cool for you. So, really simple. It's not, well, let's be honest, it's not as simple as just like putting something in the chat box under a YouTube. That's true. But certainly it ends up being, again, I'm biased, something that looks pretty cool. Right now, I would say that most submissions go up within 24 hours. And if I'm being completely frank, that's usually just because I'm in a very different time zone. Like I'm in Thailand. So like right now it's like 8 p.m. And so when people are submitting, I'm normally asleep. So I wake up and I check the submissions and because it's basically automated, all I'm really looking for is any sort of a major like massive spelling mistake that's going to like really confuse people. And then there are a few kind of major some rules for the weave. So in terms of like torture to minors is obviously not a thing that I'm going to allow, or specifically detailed torture to minors. So I check in with any of that, check anything that's like stupidly explicit or excessive. And then I click approve and then it goes up. So it's very easy, it's very quick, and I think the latest I've ever been was probably like 48 hours because I was making a film somewhere else in the world and I couldn't get to the internet. So
no, that's totally fair. And it obviously instead of obviously posting a comment on YouTube or sending an email, it's obviously, even though you're creating a character's name, backstory, blah blah, but at the same time, in terms of the actual structure here, it's a lot more structured. So it's just a lot more presentable. People can know what to put and where to put it, and it just makes submitting an entry a lot smoother as well, I would say. Because I have used it in the past. I know Keegan and I sometimes go directly to you because I'm too excited and I want to get the entry on there. Like bypass this, I'm like, here, have this. But yeah, no, so in terms of the actual overall submissions, so going forward for our channel, any submissions, any competitions or submissions that you want to include within the Pocket Realm itself, by all means use this tool here. Again, I'll put the link to the website in the description below, but if you use this, so it's under more, again, you can explore all these tabs here, but if you go to more submissions, and you can just fill out here and submit it. The SLA or the time frame around it would be, as and when we can get to it. Ideally, that's the kind of general rule of thumb, I would imagine, just because, again, depending on the number of submissions and so on, obviously then that would obviously we need to cater for that. But I think overall it just makes it a lot smoother, a lot more structured, and helps us as well in terms of creating future videos. And then those future videos will be linked to the post in the Interstice realm as well, which can locate realms and then the Interstice. So within the Interstice, we'll have a link to the YouTube channel, so then you'll be able to see your story come to life, which is what we really want for our community and as well as our lore too. I think we've covered everything here that we wanted to. So we've covered Discord, the Great Weave, obviously the Interstice Pocket Realm. So I think we're going to end it here. So I'd like to thank Keegan very much for joining and obviously sharing the Great Weave with our community. And yeah, we look forward to seeing these submissions and fleshing out the Pocket Realm. So thank you all for attending.